is Ras Kamalanket, and today I'm going to talk about candidate key, a relational database concept, and let's what is a candidate key. And if you want to understand candidate key, when I read about candidate key, I got a little bit of confusion, and that's what I am going to talk about. Like, first, let us clear some of the basics. So this is a table, ordinary table. It could be Excel table or a database table. So let's consider this as a database table, and we have attributes, we have records. So attribute and columns are two different names for same thing. So it is a synonyms word. Same is true for row and records. So student ID, roll number, first name, last name, and email, what you see in this table, top header, heading, these are all known as attributes of a table. And the values like 1, 101, John Doe, and John.Doe at the example.com is an example of record. So this is one record, then you have a second record, third record. Likewise, you can have n number of records. So record will vary with respect to time or operation or days, but the attributes are almost going to be same over a period of time. So this is what I want to talk about, and let's start. Like, what actually a candidate key, what the definition says. So a candidate key is an attribute or a set of attributes in a database table that can uniquely identify each record in that table. So, and this is a basic definition. Here what you need to understand is an attribute or a column. It could be a single attribute or a set of attribute in a database table that can uniquely identify each record. So uniquely identifying of records or row is a primary condition for a attribute to become a candidate key. So you need to understand this thing very clearly. And a candidate key possesses the essential property of uniqueness and minimality. So a candidate key should be unique as well as minimal. We will understand this in coming slides, like what it mean by uniqueness and minimality, and we will see the example in respect to the table that we have seen. If you slide back, every table can have one or more candidate key. So it is important to remember that candidate key it is possible to have more than one candidate key, and one of those candidate key is chosen by database designer to a primary key. So primary key is a subset of candidate key, so that you need to understand. And the remaining candidate key are known as alternate keys. So whatever left after primary key and they are unique, they can identify it, then they are known as alternate key. So let's just remember the property of candidate key: unique identification. So it must be able to uniquely identify every row or record in a table. No two rows can have the same value of candidate key. This is important. Minimality: it must be minimal set of attributes. This means that if any attribute is removed from the candidate key, the remaining attributes are no longer sufficient to uniquely identify the record. So minimality, what do you understand by minimality? This is very important. Like if I have taken a student ID and then I have taken roll number, and I am saying that student ID and roll number are my candidate key, then if I am removing the roll number, then student ID alone should not be able to uniquely identify the record. And if that will be the case, then this particular set of attributes cannot be called as a candidate key. Non-null optional for primary key, while a candidate key itself does not have to be non-null in general definition. The one selected as a primary key contain must not contain any null value. So this is very important. Whenever you are selecting a candidate key as a primary key, then you need to make sure that it should not be a null. We'll talk about null in detail in next video, because null is a very important concept in our database world. Again, we have this attribute tables. Just look at this table for a moment. You can pause the video and then you can just note down, take a screenshot and then see. So what are attributes? I have already discussed few slide back when we have seen this slide in the beginning. So attributes here is student ID, roll number, first name, last name, email. These are all the example of attribute or column, whatever you want to say. So these are synonyms, I have already told you. And then 101 John Doe, and john.doe @example.com is an example of a row or record. Let's discuss in respect to this table. In this table, student ID is a candidate key because it uniquely identifies each student and is minimal. Roll number and email is likely a candidate key as well, assuming that each student has a unique roll number and email address. So obviously email address is unique for every individual, and so that is also true for roll number. We cannot have same roll number for more than one student, or we cannot have two students having same roll number, then we will face a lot of difficulty. So that should not be the case, and it is not possible in real world as well. First name and last name together are not a candidate key because two people could share the same name. It's very common that two people have a same name, like John Doe, and it could be like other name like Sarukh Khan, Imran, or Irfan. These are very common name, and they are widely, you can find people with these names like Pooja Kumari. Again, a very common name you find in India. So that is there. So name cannot be used as a candidate key. So that is there. Student ID and email ID together are unique. Yes, student ID and email ID are together unique, but they are not minimal candidate key. They are not a minimal candidate key because a student ID alone is sufficient to identify the record. So we cannot say. So here the property uniqueness is there, but minimality property is not followed. That's why student ID and email together are not candidate key. In this example, the database designer would likely to choose student ID as a primary key, and roll number and email ID would be then the alternate key. And here I have done a mistake, so just remember that code is being repeated. And that's all, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.